Hey everybody, welcome back to Sip and Talk. I'm Joe. And as always, I'm ready to dive into some seriously juicy info with you all today. It's like we're mixing up a knowledge cocktail here. Strong stuff, but oh, so smooth going down.
And I'm Sunny, your friendly neighborhood fact checker. I'll make sure we get all the ingredients right. Speaking of mixing things up, you know it's always a good blend? Travel whiskey and discovering awesome new things. You have to check out our friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life.
Yeah, Mickey's the best. He's always got something cool going on.
We are very excited to get into this one today.
Oh, absolutely. So, Sip and Talkers, I want you to think back for a second. Do you remember that sort of first love feeling we all had back in 2024?
Oh, boy.
You know, when everyone was using ChatGPT to write, quirky poems or generate those really weird pictures with too many fingers.
Yeah, the fingers were always a dead giveaway.
Right. But it felt like magic back then. We really thought AI was just this super-powered chatbot. But guys, the honeymoon is officially over.
Thank goodness.
It is 2026, and we are now marrying AI,
yeah.
And we were putting it to work to actually earn us money.
Well, while your jumping metaphors are as wild as ever, you are completely right. I'm here to look at the cold, hard data. And the data says 2026 is officially the year of the tens of billions of agents.
Tens of billions. It's crazy.
It really is. Because it's no longer about generating a polite email to your boss. We are talking about autonomous entities that they book your flights, they close out project tickets, and terrifyingly enough, they literally do your taxes, all without you having to sit there and babysit them.
Which is just a massive market power shuffle. I mean, the entire tech landscape is being redrawn right now. Mm-hmm. Everyone in the industry is asking this one question. When AI turns into an agent and starts actually, doing the heavy lifting, where does the money flow?
That is the million-dollar question, or trillion-dollar, I guess.
Exactly. Are the giant tech monopolies just going to keep getting bigger? Or are there new black swan winners emerging right under our noses?
So instead of walking through some boring table of contents, our mission today for this deep dive into the info is to just follow the money. We're going to trace the exact path of this massive shift. We'll start with the software ceiling, really unpacking why tools like Claude are redefining the current economy. Then we'll follow that immense computational drain straight down into the hardware it requires.
Because it requires a lot.
An unbelievable amount. We'll analyze how the Magnificent Seven tech giants are pivoting to handle it. And finally, we'll break out of the Silicon Valley bubble entirely to uncover the hardcore Taiwanese hardware stocks that basically hold an absolute monopoly over this whole transition.
I am so ready for this. So today's theme is Stop Chatting, Start Earning. The 2026 AI Agent Investing Playbook.
Sketchy.
We try. We are going to translate all this dense data into wealth codes that you, the Sip and Talkers, can actually understand and use. So definitely grab your coffee because we are getting right into it.
All right, I want to start by unpacking this shift you just mentioned. Before we can even talk about where to invest our money, we have to establish what we are actually investing in.
Makes sense.
Mechanically speaking, how is a 2026 agent fundamentally different from a 2024 chatbot? Because ChatGPT could already write code 2 years ago.
Right, yeah. It comes down to a shift from what we used to call generative AI to agentic AI or compound AI systems.
Okay, compound AI.
Yeah. In 2024, AI was basically a glorified autocomplete. You gave it a prompt, it predicted the next word, and then it just stopped. It required your constant human oversight.
You had to keep feeding it.
Exactly. Today, agentic AI has a closed loop of reasoning. It prioritizes decision-making over just content creation. It observes an environment, plans a sequence of actions, executes them, and this is the kicker, it checks its own work to see if it actually succeeded.
I see. And looking at the latest research, Claude seems to be completely dominating this specific arena right now.
Oh, completely.
But I want to pause on their computer use feature because it sounds a bit abstract. When you say it takes over, how is that mechanically working? Is it just like utilizing back-end API code?
See, that is the crazy part. No, it actually looks at your screen. Claude literally takes a screenshot, breaks that image down to calculate the exact X and Y coordinates of a visual button, moves a virtual cursor to those coordinates, and clicks it.
That is wild.
It is navigating the visual interface exactly like a human user does. And if it hits an error message, it doesn't just give up and ask you what to do. It reads the error, realizes it's a mistake, and tries a different path.
Okay, let's apply that to the broader web because that completely redefines the economy as we know it.
It really does.
If I'm Google, my entire multi-trillion-dollar empire is built on what we can call the traffic economy. I'm essentially just a giant digital billboard salesman.
Yep.
I give you free search, and in exchange, I make you walk past a dozen sponsored billboards before you find what you actually want.
Exactly. But an AI agent is like a ruthless personal shopper.
Okay, how so?
Well, if you tell your agent, book me the cheapest flight to Tokyo, that agent completely bypasses the search engine. It talks directly to the airline's database, negotiates the price, and just hands you the final itinerary. It doesn't look at billboards. It doesn't click on banner ads. We are moving from a traffic economy to a task economy.
Okay, but play devil's advocate with me for a second. If I'm a software company right now, my beautiful user interface, the shiny buttons and menus I spent millions designing, you're telling me that is basically useless.
Pretty much.
Because my real customer is now just a piece of code. It's like, in 2024, AI was the waiter taking your order. But in 2026, AI is the head chef, the inventory manager, and the delivery driver all combined.
That is a perfect analogy. And that's exactly why software as a service, SaaS companies, are being completely revalued right now.
Because the interfaces don't matter anymore.
Right. What matters is API integration. How easily can an AI agent plug into your software, extract what it needs in the dark, and get out?
But here is the massive friction point I see in the data. If an agent is constantly acting as your personal shopper, looping in the background 24/7 without you prompting it, the sheer amount of compute required completely breaks the 2024 cloud infrastructure model.
Oh, it shatters it.
Right. So to make this economically viable, the physical architecture had to change. Which brings us to the hardware arms race.
You cannot have a task economy without the physical engine to run it. And the undisputed king of that engine right now is the NVIDIA Rubin platform.
Right, which is slated for the second half of 2026.
Yep.
The specs on this are just staggering. We are talking about extreme co-design across 6 new chips. You have the Vera CPU, the Rubin GPU, the NVLink 6 switch. But help me understand the economics here.
Sure.
They are touting a 10x reduction in inference token cost.
Yeah.
How does a hardware redesign actually make thinking cheaper?
It is all about bandwidth. It's about eliminating data traffic jams. Think of it like widening a highway. The NVL72 rack they designed provides 260 terabytes per second of bandwidth.
That number is just absurd.
To put that in perspective for you, that is more bandwidth than the entire global internet contained in a single server rack.
Incredible.
When data moves that fast without getting stuck in a bottleneck, the power required per calculation drops massively. That 10x cost reduction is the only thing making constantly thinking agents affordable for everyday use.
It's no wonder tech leaders are calling it a rocket engine for AI. But I have to push back on this cloud-centric view for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
I'm looking at the data on local edge-based AI. Things like the MediaTek Dimensity 9400 platform. If NVIDIA's cloud is offering 260 terabytes a second, why do I care about a local edge chip in my phone? Isn't local AI just a massive downgrade in intelligence?
You would think so, but the edge is where the agents actually live with us in our pockets.
Right.
MediaTek built this Dimensity platform with an 8th generation NPU, a neural processing unit specifically for agentic tasks. They use a framework called Sense, Reason, Act.
Sense, Reason, Act. Okay.
Yeah, and it processes 50 tokens per second locally with 35% lower power consumption. And this matters for 2 huge reasons: latency and privacy.
Okay, privacy, I understand. If my agent is reading my personal text messages and my banking maps to figure out when my flight is, I don't necessarily want that data beamed up to some server farm in another state.
Precisely. You want it processed locally, instantly, on the device.
So it's kind of like NVIDIA's cloud is a massive central bank.
We like this.
It holds all the heavy reserves. It does the massive complex calculations. But MediaTek's edge AI is the cash in your wallet.
Yes.
You need the wallet for fast, private, everyday transactions without having to report back to headquarters for every single purchase.
That is the perfect way to look at it. You absolutely need both to make the ecosystem work. So if we take this software brain and this hardware muscle, let's translate it into the 2026 playbook.
Let's follow the money.
Exactly. Who actually captures the wealth in this new task economy?
Well, let's start with the Magnificent Seven, the U.S. giants. They are essentially the infrastructure and the gatekeepers here. NVIDIA is obvious. They are selling the shovels during the gold rush, and they hold absolute pricing power. But then you have Microsoft, who acts as the enterprise hub.
Oh, Microsoft is huge in this.
Yeah, through Azure and their Entra identity verification system, Microsoft is basically the office building where these agents go to work. If an AI agent wants to audit a company's financials, it has to badge into Microsoft's security system first.
And on the consumer side, you have Apple as the ultimate terminal gatekeeper. This is a massive shift. Apple introduced private cloud compute, or PCC.
I want to dig into that because how is PCC actually different from just regular cloud storage, like AWS or whatever?
It's all about cryptographic guarantees. Normally, when you send data to the cloud provider technically has access to it.
Right.
But Apple extended their device-level security into the cloud using end-to-end encryption. When your iPhone sends a complex request to Apple's server, the server is cryptographically blind to who you are, and it deletes the data the very second the task is done.
Oh, wow. So they don't hold anything.
Nothing. So if a third-party agent wants to read your text to book that flight we talked about, it has to go through Apple's privacy toolbooth. Apple owns the VIP entrance to your personal data.
Which brings us back to Google's vulnerability. As we established with the billboard analogy earlier, if agents bypass search entirely, Google's ad revenue is under massive threat.
A huge threat.
Their only real play is to integrate their own agents so deeply into the Android operating system that they become the default action takers before a third-party agent can step in.
But none of that Silicon Valley software magic happens without the physical bottleneck.
The hardware.
Exactly. We have to break out of the U.S. bubble and look at the Taiwanese titans. First up, TSMC.
Oh, the absolute giant.
They're an absolute monopoly at this point. Their revenue was up over 40% year over year in the first half of 2025.
And it's not just because they print the 3-nanometer and upcoming 2-nanometer chips. The data keeps pointing to their advanced packaging, specifically CoWoS.
Yep, chip on wafer on substrate.
See, I see this acronym everywhere in financial reports. But I'll admit I am a bit lost on the actual physics of it. What is advanced packaging, and why is it the ultimate bottleneck?
Okay, think about how we used to build computer motherboards. It was kind of like a sprawling suburb.
Okay, a suburb.
You had the processor way over here, the memory way over there, and they communicated by sending electrical signals across these long horizontal wires.
Right, they had to commute.
Exactly. But when an AI agent is processing billions of parameters, sending data across a flat board takes too long, it uses way too much power, and it generates massive heat.
So CoWoS is like building a skyscraper instead of a suburb.
You nailed it. TSMC stacks the silicon vertically. The memory is physically stacked right next to or even directly on top of the processor.
Wow.
The distance the data has to travel drops to microscopic levels. That is how NVIDIA achieves those massive speed boosts.
Okay, so whether it's NVIDIA designing the Rubin chip or even Amazon designing a custom server chip, they all have to pay the toll road to TSMC to actually package it.
Every single one of them.
Then you have the system integrators, like Quanta, because you can't just plug these vertical skyscrapers into a standard wall outlet.
No, they would melt.
Right. Quanta is assembling these massive liquid-cooled racks. They are literally doubling their server production capacity because these new chips run incredibly hot. But what about the hidden champions? The data highlights companies like Alchip and Unimicron.
Let's take Unimicron first. They manufacture ABF substrates.
I have to be honest, I have no idea what an ABF substrate is or why it's a multi-billion-dollar choke point.
Well, if CoWoS is the skyscraper, the ABF substrate is the foundational plumbing and electrical grid.
Okay.
It's a highly specialized film that isolates the microscopic layers of wiring so they don't short circuit. And surprisingly enough, it was originally developed by the Ajinomoto Food Company.
Wait, the MSG guys?
The very same. Unimicron makes that film. If you don't have their substrate, you literally cannot build the chip. Period.
And Alchip. They do bespoke ASIC design. Why are tech giants suddenly abandoning general-purpose graphics cards to build custom chips?
Because general GPUs from NVIDIA are incredible, but they are expensive and power-hungry because they are designed to do a little bit of everything.
Jack of all trades.
Exactly. If you're Amazon and you only need a chip to do one very specific type of agentic reasoning in your AWS server farm, it's cheaper in the long run to design an ASIC.
An application-specific integrated circuit.
Right. It does one thing perfectly. But Amazon needs a company like Alchip to actually design that complex physical architecture for them.
It's just a complete shift in market valuation. It feels like we spent the last 3 years arguing over who has the smartest brain, and now the market is saying, I don't care how smart you are, who has the hands to actually build the car?
The physical execution is where all the leverage is right now.
It really is.
But as rational investors, we cannot just drink the Silicon Valley optimism Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
We have to engage in second-level thinking.
Yes, my favorite part.
We have to look at the friction, because there are severe vulnerabilities when you hand over the keys of the economy to autonomous code.
This is where I love to ruin the party with the data. Let's talk about Bubble 2.0. First up, the energy crisis.
Yeah, that's a big one.
MIT Tech Review recently pointed out the staggering energy footprint of these continuous reasoning models. If an agent is constantly looping, observing, and planning, our power grids are simply not ready for that kind of baseload.
And then there's the competence crisis. We just assume these agents are flawless, but are they actually good?
That is highly debatable.
OpenAI co-founder Andrej Karpathy famously called early agents ineffective AI slop.
And their research really backs that up. There was a Carnegie Mellon test where they had AI agents run a fake company, and it resulted in a total disaster. They just ran it into the ground.
Oh my gosh.
There are reports of early coding agents getting caught in infinite loops, making cascading mistakes, and literally wiping user hard drives.
Which leads directly into the employment and outage risks. We saw that massive AWS outage in late 2025, which reports linked to Amazon replacing parts of its workforce with AI agents that mismanaged server loads.
Right. And look at Klarna. They made all those headlines for replacing human customer service with AI, only to quietly rehire human employees later because the agents couldn't handle the nuance of complex refunds.
That's hilarious, but also terrifying.
Yeah, it's what I call the utility ceiling concept. If we spend trillions building all these massive liquid-cooled, power-hungry server farms using TSMC's Kawas packaging, but the agents end up being clumsy interns that delete our files and cause global network outages. Don't we have a massive real estate bubble on our hands? We built the most expensive high-tech skyscrapers in human history, but the tenants are terrible at their jobs.
It is a very real, very scary risk. And there's a darker side to this lack of human oversight, too.
A security threat.
Yes. If an agent can autonomously execute code, it can autonomously find vulnerabilities.
Yep.
Anthropic claimed that Chinese state-sponsored hackers actually used Claude code in an agentic workflow to launch cyber attacks against dozens of organizations.
Now, to remain completely impartial here, we do have to note that independent cybersecurity researchers questioned the significance of those claims.
Right. Fair point.
They stated the attacks might not have been as fully autonomous as Anthropic portrayed them to be. But the mere fact that we are having a serious conversation about automated, agent-driven cyber warfare is alarming enough.
It's chilling, and financial regulators are equally terrified. They are warning that financial AI, or FAI agents, acting autonomously without human-in-the-loop oversight could trigger massive flash crashes.
Oh, easily. Imagine 10,000 agents all deciding to short a stock at the exact same millisecond based on some algorithmic hallucination.
The market wouldn't even know what hit it.
And hanging over all of this is the meta threat. Mark Zuckerberg's open-source Llama model is commoditizing the entire agent space.
Which is great for us, but bad for the giants.
Exactly. When anyone can download and build a highly capable agent for nearly free, it severely threatens the economic moats of closed-source giants like OpenAI and Anthropic. The software might become entirely commoditized, leaving hardware as the only real game in town.
It is an incredibly complex playbook. We've really gone from the euphoria of generating cute images to the reality of AI acting as our financial advisor, our software engineer, and our personal shopper.
It's a whole new world.
We've traced the hardware needed to power it, from NVIDIA's cloud racks down to MediaTek's edge chips, and we've seen how Taiwan holds the physical keys to the entire global transition.
But we've also mapped out the massive friction points, the energy limits, the security risks, and the very real possibility that these agents are just clumsy interns operating in the most expensive skyscrapers ever built.
Before we wrap up this deep dive into the information, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought.
Let's hear it.
We've talked about the dead internet theory before, the idea that the internet is mostly just bots talking to bots. But I want you to apply that to this new agentic era.
Right, because we are seeing the rise of entirely new machine-to-machine languages, protocols like Gibberlink or the Model Context Protocol.
Exactly. When 90% of web traffic becomes just AI agents, talking to other AI agents, using machine languages we can't even read to negotiate prices, book services, and execute tasks, What happens to the human web?
That's a great question.
Will websites, with their shiny buttons and graphical interfaces, even exist in 5 years? Or will the internet just become a massive invisible API where our agents do all the talking in the dark?
It's a fascinating and honestly slightly chilling thought to chew on.
But that is why we are here, to stay ahead of the curve. Thank you so much for joining us to unpack all of this, Sip&Talkers.
As always, don't forget to subscribe to the Sip&Talk podcast so you never miss an update on where the future is heading. And a customary shout out to our good friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life. Go check him out.
Stay curious. We'll see you next time.